Welcome to all of you B.Sc. first year students. Last period we have started the new article Structure and Functions of Skin of w.attu. In this article we have seen how this skin of w.attu these are to be important and how these are to be called as sensory organs or the sense organ, because it is to be important sense organs, and this skin of w.attu these are to be made up of a thick soft skin, and this skin these are to be divided into, or it is to be made up of three types of cell layers: epidermis, dermis and subcutis. Last part we have seen the first part, epidermis and their cells. This epidermis is also called as a complex sheet of tissue made up of number of cells which play the major role, important role in the metabolic activity of w.attu. Yes. Then next part of this structure and functions of skin, the second part or the next layer of the skin is the dermis, then subcutis and functions of skin of w.attu. The second layer next to the epidermis or below to the epidermis, the cell layer is present, that layer dermis is present. Below to the epidermis, dermis is present, and dermis is the thicker than epidermis. Remember, no doubt, epidermis is the multiple cell layer, connective tissue sheet layer, but as compared to the epidermis, dermis is thick, epidermis is thin. The dermis is thicker than epidermis and is made up of thin upper layer of loose elastic connective tissue fibers. That is, this dermis is made up of which cell layers? This dermis, it is to be thick, but it is to be made up of thin upper layer of loose elastic connective tissue fibers. It is to be made up of thin upper layer of loose elastic connective tissue fibers and cells. It is called as stratum spongium. That is upper layer, upper cells of the dermis. Dermis is thicker than the epidermis, and this dermis is made up of thin upper layer of loose elastic connective tissue fibers, loose elastic connective tissue fibers and cells. It is called as stratum spongium. Stratum spongium is the loose elastic connective tissue layer which is to be upper layer, and to this cell layer, to this stratum spongium, loose elastic connective tissue layer, dermis these are to be formed, dermis these are to be developed. Stratum spongium is crossed by longitudinally. Stratum spongium is crossed by longitudinally arranged fibers. The stratum spongium is to be crossed by longitudinally arranged fibers below to the stratum spongium. Lower to this stratum spongium, thick compact layer of fibers are present, which is called as stratum compactum. Just I have told you that this dermis these are to be made up of two cell layers. This dermis these are to be made up of two types of cell. One is the stratum spongium and second is the stratum compactum. Stratum spongium are the loose elastic connective tissue layer. Loose elastic connective tissue layer, that is the stratum spongium, and stratum compactum, it is to be below to the stratum spongium, thick compact layer of fibers. This thick compact layer of longitudinally arranged fibers, these are called as the stratum compactum. Stratum compactum, and the dermis is richly supplied with blood vessels. This dermis is to be richly supplied with blood vessels and lymphatics. Lymphatics and blood vessels, these are to be supplied to this dermis. Dermis may also have dermal papillae with taste bud cells. Dermis may also sometimes not occasionally or sometimes, occasionally or not continuously, but occasionally, rarely. This dermis may also have possesses dermal papillae with taste bud cells. These dermal papillae with taste bud cells, these are to present, these are to be found in this dermis region, in this dermis cell layer or the dermis. See, this is the transverse section of skin of w.attu. Transverse section of skin of w.attu. Earlier we have studied first layer, that is the epidermis. Up to which layer epidermis is to present? Just from surface cell layer up to this region, the layer is present. It is called as the epidermis. It is called as epidermis. This layer is called as the epidermis. Yes, this epidermis is the multi-cell layer. The second layer is the dermis. This dermis, these are to be made up of two cell layer. One is the spongium compactum, which is to be loose elastic connective tissue. Loose elastic connective tissue. One is that is longitudinal loose elastic connective tissue called as the stratum spongium, and second is the stratum compactum. These are the dermis layer. This is the dermis. See in this figure, D, that is the dermis, E, that is the epidermis. These two layers, first in figure we have observed thickness of the epidermis is to be more, but in reality thickness of this epidermis is to be thin as compared to the dermis. In figure the thickness of the dermis is to be thin, but in real condition the thickness of this dermis, these are to be thick and which is to be made up of connective tissue. One is the stratum spongium and stratum compactum. In stratum compactum, longitudinal fibers, these are to present, and this fiber, that is blood vessels and nerve fibers, these are the blood vessels and these are the nerve fiber, these are to present. It is to be found in this figure. Same structure which is to present. This is the one cell layer and this is the other cell, longitudinal muscle layer, connective tissue fibers. These are two cells, these are to present in this skin of, that is w.attu, that is the TS of skin of w.attu. Just first is the epidermis and second is the dermis layer, these are to present, is to be found. Yeah. Third layer, the dermis is richly supplied with blood vessels, lymphatics, and dermis may also have dermal papillae with taste bud. Dermis follows next to the dermis. The third layer is present and that third layer is called as the subcutis. See, this is the third layer, it is called as the subcutis, which is to be indicated by a green color. This is a third layer, additional layer. Only remember, this subcutis is to be present only in those fishes scales are absent and body is to be covered by thick skin. In these fishes only, that is third layer is present in the skin, and that third layer is the subcutis. This is the third layer. Just below the dermis lies the subcutis, and the latter is attached to the underlying muscle layer. This subcutis, these are to be attached. These are to be beneath to the underlying muscle layer. A subcuticular layer or subcuticular layer is loose connective tissue. Subcuticular layer is also loose connective tissue. The subcutis layer is also provided with blood vessels and nerves. This subcutis layer is also provided with blood vessels and nerves. Generally, these subcutis, these are to be performs a muscle layer, performs a thickness of the skin, and this skin, depending upon the subcutis, is to be more thick, skin is to be thick. Subcutis is to be thin, skin is to be thin. Means this subcutis, these are to be performed the muscles, and these muscle bundles, these muscle layer, these are to be important. These are the important part of the skin. With this three layers. First, epidermis outermost, middle dermis, and innermost third layer. Only in those fishes scales are absent and body is to be covered by thick skin. In these fishes, this subcutaneous layer is present. It is to be made up of loose connective tissue fibers, and in this subcutaneous again blood vessels and nerve fibers or nerves are to be present embedded, and these are to be supplied to the sensation by nerves and by blood capillaries. Blood, these are to be richly vascularized. More blood vessels, these are to be supplied to the muscle bundles, and these muscle bundle, these are to be act as a thickness of the trunk or the thickness of the body. With these three layers, we have seen the structure of the skin of w.attu. Skin of w.attu, these are to be made up of three layers: outer, external, epidermis, middle, dermis, and inner subcutaneous. Inner subcutaneous. Then we have seen the important part, functions of skin of w.attu. Which function performed by the skin of w.attu? The functions of skin of w.attu. The skin serves many useful functions. Skin serve many useful functions in w.attu. In this freshwater shark, this skin, these are to be play important role, play most significant functions. Which are these functions? Number one, it is primarily a protective covering of the body. Primarily, it is a protective covering of the body. Second, skin subserves as a respiratory function. Skin subserve as a respiratory function, as the dermis is to be richly supplied with blood vessels. As skin, these are to be provided, skin, these are to be supplied maximum blood vessel. Hence, these bloods, these are to be provided, these are to be supply blood to the skin, and this skin, these are to be act as a respiratory function in this w.attu. Next function of the skin, it also helps, skin also helps the adjustment of the body temperature. It also maintains the body temperature because it is to be supplied, it is to be provided maximum blood capillaries, maximum blood vessels, and when these are to be supplied blood capillaries, blood vessel, it adjusts, it maintains the body temperature. It maintains the body temperature. For that purpose, skin is to be important. Skin is also important functions for the organ. Another important functions of the skin, skin on the body of the skin, mucus glands, these are to present, and these mucus glands, these are to be secrete the secretion, in which nature, that is in glycoprotein. And when this mucus, these are to be secrete the secretion glycoprotein, that glycoprotein is called as mucin. And when this mucin, these are to be combined with water, forms a lustrous gelatinous white liquid, that is called as mucus. And what is the important function of mucus? The mucus secretion provides lubrication against friction during the locomotion. When fish, these are to be swim from one part to the another part, from one water to the another water, at that time the mucus secretion provides lubrication against friction during the locomotion in water and helps in clearing the turbid water. This mucus, these are to be useful. This mucus, these are to be important to clear the turbid water. Those coagulation, those debris or waste suspended materials, these are to present in water. These turbid water, by coagulating or precipitating these mud, this water, mucus, these are to be clear the water, and for that purpose, this mucus, these are to be important, which secrete by the fish body. It is another important function of the mucus. With the help of mucus secreted on the body, fish, these are to be escape from the enemies. Escape from the enemies. No enemies, these are to be attack on the fish, because as enemies, these are to be attack on the fish. With the help of the mucus, slimy mucus, fish, these are to be easily escape and it is to be safe from the enemies. That's why this mucus is also important. It is also most important. It is said that food is also absorbed through the skin. Some workers, it is to be noted that, it is to be reported that whenever there is a scarcity of food, when food feeding these are to be stopped by mouth, at that time it is to be said that food is also absorbed through the skin. That's why this skin these are to be important, skin these are to be useful. See this figure which is to be we have seen, this figure these are to be indicated complete body these are to be covered by thick soft skin, and this thick soft skin these are to be made up of epidermis, dermis and the subcutis. These three layers, these three parts these are to present, these are to form. Next important function of the skin, it is well known receptor organ. Just I have earlier told that it is also called as sense organ. It is well known receptor organ having lateral line, and in this lateral line which is to present on lateral side, in this lateral line taste bud cell, neuromast cells and pit organs. These are taste bud cells, neuromast organs and pit organs. Due to these three cells, due to these three parts, this lateral line these are to be act as a sensory organ. This lateral line these are to be act as a sense organ, or it is also called as well known receptor organ. These are to be noted. The aquatic changes which is to be occur in water, or better way it is to be reported the hydrobiological changes, change in water temperature, change in pH, change in salinity, change in pressure, change in different depth. All these changes these are to be noted by neuromast organs. Taste is to be taken by taste bud cells and pit organs, and hence this skin it is to be act as a well known receptor organ. Mucus secrete on the skin, it protects the body from the parasite. When this body is to be covered by mucus, it is to be protect the fish from parasite, fungus, bacteria and other microorganisms, that is viruses. Means not only the mucus these are to be useful to cut down the body of the fish from one part to the another part, but this mucus these are to be useful to escape the fish from the enemies. Mucus is also important to protect the fish body from the parasite, fungi, bacteria or other microorganisms which is to be present in water. Free from these pathogens, parasite, mucus these are to be protect the fish body. The skin performs an important function in repairing the surface wounds. It is again important function. Skin play most important role in repairing the wounds. Those wounds which is to be occur, those damage injuries these are to be occur on the body of fish, that may be enemies, that may be obstacles, or that may be any parasite, fungus, or at the time of netting or enemies these are to be attacked. Immediate within 1 or 3 days that wound these are to be repaired. That's why this skin these are to be act as a wound repairing organs. Those wound which is to be occur, that is to be repaired by the skin. Then another important function of the skin, skin is useful for excretory. Skin is to be useful for excretory function. Skin is also useful for osmoregulation. It is also useful for sense of touch, and these different important functions which is to be performed by the skin. Which are these functions? That is, it is to be useful in excretory function to maintain the nitrogenous waste liquid material. These are to be liberated, these are to be expelled out through the skin in emergency condition, in adverse condition, as well as osmoregulatory to maintain the salt water balance, osmoregulation to maintain the internal body fluid concentration to the external body fluid concentration. This skin these are to be useful for osmoregulatory function. Skin is also important for sense of touch. All these functions which is to be performed by the skin, and hence skin is to be act as a multi-purpose function body. Skin is to be act as a multi-purpose function body in w.attu, and hence skin play a major role, play important role in the protecting from enemies. It is to be useful to swim from one part to the another part. Easily it can change water, easily it can cut the water. For that purpose, skin is to be important function. With all these functions, skin is called as a multi-function sheet. With this, we have complete the important aspect, important article, that is structure and functions of skin of w.attu. Structure and functions of skin of w.attu. Skin is to be made up of three layers: epidermis, dermis, subcutis, and functions. It is primary function protective, then act as a respiratory. In adverse condition, it is to be act as a respiratory. Then it is to be adjust the body temperature, highly vascularized, maximum blood vessel, these are to be supplied. Some food is also absorbed by the skin. Then mucus is to be covered on the skin, hence it is to be protective from enemies. It is to be cut the water from one part to the other part. Mucus is to be important to escaping enemies. Mucus is to be secrete whole the body. It is to be protect from parasite, bacteria, fungi, viruses, these are to be not attack. And skin is also act as a well-known receptor organ, as well as it is to be also act as a wound repairing organ. Those wounds which is to be occur, it is also important performing, that is to adjust the water temperature, to maintain the excretory function. It is act as a osmoregulatory function. All these functions, these are to be performed by the skin of w.attu. Yes, here we have completed. Any problem, any difficulties, please ask. Thank you.